Hi everyone, welcome to our channel. So this is part 5 video of this series NestJS and Angular CRUD example. So let's try to implement the create endpoint and at the NestJS application, and in Angular we will create a form and we are going to use the NestJS API to save a new record into the MongoDB. Okay, so first let's begin by creating a HTTP post endpoint in the NestJS application. Okay, so go to NestJS application. So go to our services. Let's first implement the logic for saving the new record into the MongoDB database. Okay, so create a new method async and name it like create. Okay, and this method should contain the user entered payload, nothing but a new record or a new document that we want to save into our MongoDB collection. Okay, this is my payload and I will use my superheroes model itself, okay, as a reference. And now constant new superheroes, we cannot pass this object directly. Okay, so we have to in this dot superhero model. Okay, so we can instantiate it. Okay, so open braces here and pass our payload into this object. Okay, so this is nothing but this going to take the document or nothing but our payload, and it will generate the appropriate superhero as a MongoDB understandable document. Okay, now this document I can directly call save method. Okay, so return. So I am just returning the newly created our record. Okay, so we can use new superheroes and it will have a method like save. Okay, so that's going to save our record into the new database and the newly created document will be written from this method. So here what we are doing, we are using our superhero model. Okay, initialize its object and passed our payload and we generated new superhero document, and this will have a default method like save, and invoking it our document will get saved into the MongoDB. Okay, now let's consume this method in our controller. So go to superheroes controller. Okay, now let's create the HTTP post method. Okay, so let's create a method like async create superhero. Okay, and to make this method HTTP post method, it should be decorated with the post. Okay, that loads from the NestJS class common. So by decorating this decorator at the rate post makes our method only consumed by the HTTP post request. Okay, and this method should have payload. And to read payload, we cannot directly write a variable. Okay, we should read it from the body of the request. Okay, form body, just like form body. Okay, so at the rate body decorator should be added here, and that also loads from the NestJS class common. And now define our payload variable. So I can name it like superheroes, any name you can give, and I can specify its type like my superheroes class. Okay, now I can directly call my method. Okay, return this dot create, so this dot superhero service dot create. Okay, and pass our payload. Okay, so this is my HTTP post action methods. Okay, so let's rerun our NestJS application. Okay, so after rerunning NestJS application, let's get back to our Angular project. Okay, now I want to display a form, right? So what I will do, I will create a new component where I'm going to implement the form. Okay, so for that we know our Angular CLI commands, right? So ng generate component, and I want it to create inside of the superheroes folder. Okay, and name of my new component add superheroes. I don't want any spec files, so skip this. Okay, run the command. So my component got created. Okay, if I check the folder structure inside of the superheroes folder, now you can see a new component folder, that is add superhero. Okay, now first let's configure this superheroes new component routing. For that, go to app routing module. Okay, so here let's create a new route. So route can be specified at path property, right? So I will name my route like add superhero. Okay, and map the component we want to load for this route. That is our add superhero component. Okay, so now go to our Angular superhero service and let's implement the logic to consume the HTTP post API. Okay, so go to service file. Okay, so now this time we have to post our form data, right? So let's define a type for it. Okay, so ng generate. I want to create an interface. Okay, interface inside of the super heroes folder, and I'm going to name it like create hyphen or update. So I can use same model for creating the document or updating the document. Okay, so superhero. So run the command. Okay, so the command is successfully ran, and if I search for my creator update hero, okay, and its properties are almost equal to our superhero model, okay, except id. So why I am explicitly creating one more entity instead of not using this superhero dto? This contains id, right? If we pass this id value to the server, server get uh, written 500 error. Now let's go to our service file and let me create a new method like create, and this method should have input parameter nothing but our payload to our API. Okay, so superhero of type create superhero. Okay, and return this dot http dot, since it is a post request, right? It has post method. Okay, default method, and it should invoke same endpoint. Okay, but http verb request will be post. Okay, so based on request type, the action method will at the server will execute it. That is why same url also not a problem to consume different methods at the server. Okay, and here along with the url we have to pass a second parameter, that is nothing but our payload. Okay, so this is my logic. Okay, now let's go to our uh, add component dot ts file. Okay, so here let me first create a model for my form. Okay, model means nothing but a variable. Let me create a superheroes model of type create superhero dto. Okay, now let's define the empty data because this model will be mapped to our HTML. Okay, for form binding. So initially all the values will be empty. Okay, so this is my method. And now let's create a method that's going to consume our superhero service. So the method now I am going to create will be invoked by a button click in our HTML file that we are going to understand in the upcoming steps. Okay, first let's create a method. So I will create like create method, and this has to consume our service, right? For that we have to inject our superhero service. So private superheroes service. Okay, now I can use the service and I can consume the create method. Okay, so for that I have to subscribe, right? Because to read the success of the API call. And here create method expecting input parameter, that is nothing but the payload, that is nothing but our form user ended form data. So here we have our form variable, that is superheroes. And in the subscribe method, okay, so this is a form, right? After saving, I have to navigate back to home page. Okay, from the add form page to home page, I have to navigate back. So for that, I can inject one more service like router router service. So private router service. So this service loads from the Angular routing. Okay. So using this service, we can navigate to any component page. So I want to navigate to my home page component once I saved successfully. Okay. So this dot router dot navigate. And this method takes array, and that in the array first value will be our the path of the URL. Since it is a simple slash, right, that means just navigate back to our home page. Okay. So the logic inside of my TS component, we are done. Now we have to define the form in the HTML file. For that, go to our HTML file. So add superhero component HTML file. Let's add a container, bootstrap container. Give some margin top. And now let's add form heading by adding the less than tag. Okay. Simply add the heading like create. Okay. And add a form. Now inside of it, we have to add the form field. To do that, let's go to the Bootstrap website. Okay. And inside of the Bootstrap, go to docs, and here go for the forms. Okay. In the overview section. Okay. Here is a sample Bootstrap form. Let me copy this single div that contains text field. Okay. So add it here. So let me remove this div. Okay. So this is my simple div. But I want four text fields. One for name, franchise, URL, okay, power. So these are my document properties, right? So I need four fields. So let me create one, two. Actually, I want one field for text area. Okay, three text boxes and one text area. So go to form controls. Here is the text area example. So copy the second div and paste it here. Okay, these are our four fields. So first let's name the text field for name. Okay, and this label should be name of the superhero, and first should be match with our ID. Okay, same way text franchise. Okay, and this should be franchise, and we have copied text field of email type. Just uh, change it to text type. Okay, text type and text type, and franchise, txt franchise and id value. Okay. And next thing is image URL. Okay. And txt image URL. Okay. And text. Okay. And assign this value. Same way for text area also, txt powers id text powers. And while using form control, it is recommended to give the name HTML name attribute as well. Okay, you can give name attribute like name, any value, unique value. Okay, franchise and image URL and this one powers. Okay, now each text field we have to map with our form variable. Our form variable is superheroes, right? So copy this to make to enable form binding. We can use ng model. Okay, so to enable ng model, open braces, square braces, inside of it, add closed braces and add ng model. So this will enable the two-way binding, means whether the data can be added from TS file to HTML file or data can be read from HTML file to TS file. And to this property, we have to map the each property of the form. Okay, like this. So copy, paste it here and map with their own property names. Okay, so this is called model binding or two-way binding in Angular. And copy image URL powers. But here we can see some red warning line is there, right? So that is because we are using ng model, right? If we are using ng model, we have to import the Angular form module in the app module. So go to app module and import the form module. So here in the imports form module. Okay, so that loads from the Angular forms. Okay, now if I go to my HTML file, now those red warning lines are disappeared. Okay, that means we are good. And let's add a button at the bottom. Okay, so button, I will take type like button so that form won't reload the page, entire page. Okay, and class btn primary. And button must be mapped with the method inside of the TS component. Means button event. Button have many events, right? One of the event must be registered with the method inside of the TS file. But when the form should be submitted on click of the button, right? So we have to register the click event. So to register the click event in Angular, open circular braces and inside of it specify the name of the event. So here you can see if auto intelligence. So you can type like click. So to this click event, I have to map the method in the component file. So go to component, we have create method, right? So map it. So on clicking the button, form get posted. Okay, name it like create. Okay, now we are done with our changes. Let's try to create a new record. Okay, let's go to our Angular application. So now I am on the home page, but I have to navigate to my create page, right? That means we must have a button here on the home page so that on clicking that button, I can navigate back to my create form page. For that, go to our Angular application and go to the all components HTML file. Okay. Here, let me add one more row. Okay. And give some margin padding for here also margin top and define the column. And I want button should be at the middle, column D4 and offset MD4. Okay. So that going to place our button in the middle of the area. Okay. So here I'm not using button directly. I'm going to use the anchor tag. So why I am using anchor tag means for navigating the one page to another page in Angular, most preferred is anchor tag. Okay. But I want a look and feel of anchor tag is like a button, so I can apply the button classes. Okay. Button primary. And to navigate, on clicking this anchor tag, the page should not be reloaded for navigation. So without reloading, and we have to navigate. For that, we can use Angular decorator like router link. So it will simply navigate to the component, Angular component without reloading the entire page. Okay. Add. So what is our route? Go to route app routing module and copy this and assign it to the router link. And one more thing, the route should be prefixed with slash, any route. Okay. And here create superhero. Okay. Now let's go to our Angular application. Now we got the superhero button, right? If I click on it, I must navigate to my add superhero component. See, I am navigated here. Okay. But here button is not visible properly. So what happened? Sorry, it is BTN primary. Okay. Okay, you can see the create. So now let's create a new superhero. So I have already saved some sample data for create new item. So I'm copying it. Okay. Okay, I have populated the sample data. Now open the developer console and network calls and XHR so that we can see the request gets invoked. Okay. Now click on the create button. See, data is saved and I am navigated to home page and you can see our new record here. Okay. If I go to network calls, here you can see first request. First request is HTTP post. That means our create request. If you see the payload, so this is the payload we are passing. Okay. And here you can see 201 means data is successfully created at the server. Okay. So that is the first request, post request. If you see the second request, see request method is get. That means this is our get request. Okay. And if you observe the preview, here you can see two records. Means our second record, which we entered in the form, is successfully saved into the database and it is returning as a response in our get API and that is rendering on the page. So from this we can understand. So let's reduce this. Let's try to reduce the size. So go to our all superhero component and make this MD3 means I want 3 columns per row. Okay. Okay. Now it is just shrink and looks better. Okay. So now we are done with the create operation. Next, we are going to do the update operation. Okay. For that, we are going to create an update endpoint at the NestJS application, and in the Angular application, we are going to create a update form. Okay. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this video delivered some useful content. If this content helps you, please do support me by subscribing to my channel. Soon we are going to meet with new videos. Until then, signing off.